Grand Duchess Tatiana Nikolaevna of Russia was the second daughter of Tsar Nicholas II, the last monarch of Russia, and Tsarina Alexandra. Born at Petrov Palace near St. Petersburg, Tatiana was the younger sister of Grand Duchess Olga and the elder sister of Grand Duchesses Maria, Anastasia and Tsarevich Alexei. Renowned for her beauty and aristocratic demeanour, Tatiana was often seen as the most striking of the Romanov sisters. Her siblings affectionately called her the Governess due to her authoritative yet nurturing nature. She shared a particularly close bond with her mother, spending countless hours reading to her and assisting with charitable efforts. During World War I, Tatiana displayed remarkable dedication by training as a nurse alongside Olga. She tended to the wounded soldiers at Tsarskoye Selo, highlighting her compassionate and dutiful character. However, her life took a tragic turn when the family was arrested in 1917 following the Russian Revolution. Let's now find out more about Tatiana's unwavering sense of duty and compassion that shaped her legacy during the final tumultuous years of her life. Tatiana Nikolaevna was born on June 10, 1897. From birth, she captivated those around her with her beauty and grace. She was noted for her tall, slender frame, dark brown hair, grey eyes, and finely chiselled features. Her striking resemblance to her mother, Empress Alexandra, and her poised elegance made her stand out among her siblings. Her beauty and presence struck many who encountered Tatiana. Baroness Sophie Buxhovden, her mother's lady-in-waiting, remarked on Tatiana's attractive features, noting her beautiful, regular features and wide-apart eyes that gave her a poetic and faraway look. General Count Alexander Grab described her as the prettiest of the Grand Duchesses, noting her striking resemblance to her mother. Anna Barabova, a close friend of the Tsarina, recalled Tatiana as the tallest and most graceful of the sisters, with many admirers among the officers. Yet despite her imperial status, Tatiana preferred to be addressed by her first name, shunning the formalities of her title. Her close-knit family and friends respected this preference, and she was affectionately known by nicknames such as Tanechka and Tanka. Her disdain for titles was evident in an incident which scolded her lady-in-waiting for addressing her as Your Imperial Highness, highlighting her preference for simplicity and humility. Tatiana's practical and nurturing nature earned her the nickname the Governess among her siblings. She often acted as their spokesperson when seeking favours from their parents. Her natural leadership and organisational skills made her a constant help to the household. Pierre Gilliard, her tutor, described her as reserved and well-balanced, noting her dedication and hard work compared to her more spontaneous sister, Olga. Tatiana was interested in fashion and had an innate sense of style. She could make any outfit look elegant and was admired for her fashion sense. Her mother's friend, Anna Verabova, noted Tatiana's talent in embroidery and hairstyling, highlighting her practical skills. Socially, Tatiana was the most outgoing of her sisters, though her high rank and her mother's reluctance to engage in society limited her opportunities to make friends her age. Nonetheless, she longed for companionship and valued deep, meaningful friendships. Despite her friendly nature, Tatiana was profoundly introspective and struggled with philosophical and theological questions, often contemplating themes of good and evil, sorrow and forgiveness. Her close relationship with her mother was well known, with many considering Tatiana Alexandra's favourite daughter. Her devotion and attentiveness to her mother set her apart. Tatiana's bond with her father was equally strong. They shared many common interests and enjoyed a close, loving relationship. Her unworldliness and naivety were apparent in her surprise at learning her governess was paid for her services and her inexperience with handling money during a rare shopping trip. These incidents underscored the sheltered upbringing she and her siblings experienced. Despite the challenges and constraints of her rural life, Tatiana's beauty, grace, and deep sense of duty left a lasting impression on those who knew her. Her legacy as a compassionate, nurturing, and introspective young woman continues to be remembered and admired. Tatiana at birth weighed in at 3.9 kilograms. The delivery was challenging, and upon regaining consciousness from the chloroform, Alexandra was distressed, exclaiming, "My God, it is again a daughter. What will the nation say?" It reflected the expectations for a male heir, as under the Pauline laws, the Russian throne could only pass through the male line, unless all legitimate male heirs were extinct. Tatiana's birth did not meet the anticipation for a son, leaving many disappointed, including Grand Duke Konstantin Konstantinovich and Grand Duke George Alexandrovich, Nicholas's brother. The hope for a male heir was a recurring theme in the Romanov family, as Nicholas' succession plan depended on having a son. Nevertheless, the bond between Tatiana and her siblings, Grand Duchesses Olga, Maria, Anastasia and Tsarevich Alexei, was strong, and they shared a close relationship with their parents. Tatiana's name was chosen as a tribute to the character Tatiana from Alexander Pushkin's novel Eugene Onegin. Nicholas II wanted to honour the literary heroines Olga and Tatiana, which reflected his admiration for Russian literature. Despite her high status as an imperial highness, Tatiana's title was translated into English as Grand Duchess, a title that placed her above other European princesses who were only royal highnesses. Like her siblings, Tatiana's upbringing was marked by simplicity and discipline. She and her sisters slept on camp beds without pillows, took cold baths each morning, and engaged in embroidery and knitting projects intended as gifts for charity bazaars. This austere lifestyle was designed to instill a sense of humility and duty. In their family dynamics, Tatiana and Olga were known as the Big Pair. They shared a bedroom and were extremely close from an early age. In the spring of 1901, when Olga contracted typhoid fever and was confined to the nursery, Tatiana was only allowed to see her sister as Olga began to recover briefly. The sight of her pale and weakened sister brought Tatiana to tears, and she initially refused to believe that the sickly child was indeed her beloved Olga. This incident deeply affected Tatiana, showcasing her emotional sensitivity and a strong bond with her older sister. Tatiana's early years were shaped by the expectations of her royal lineage, the close-knit nature of her family, and the disciplined upbringing that prepared her for the future role within the Russian imperial family. Tatiana was deeply attached to her younger brother, Alexei, and often found solace in her relationship with Grigory Rasputin, a Russian peasant and wandering holy man. Rasputin's influence on the Romanov family, primarily through his alleged ability to alleviate Alexei's haemophilia symptoms, made him an integral figure in their lives. Tatiana and her siblings were taught to regard Rasputin as our friend and to confide in him. In the autumn of 1907, Tsar Nicholas II introduced his sister, the Grand Duchess Olga Alexandrovna, to Rasputin in the nursery, where Tatiana and her siblings, dressed in their long white nightgowns, interacted comfortably with him. Rasputin's presence in their lives was solidified further when he sent a telegram in February 1909, advising the children to love nature and emulate the Mother of God in their daily activities. This spiritual guidance deeply resonated with Tatiana, who often wrote to Rasputin expressing her concerns, especially about her mother's health. However, only some of the Romanov household were comfortable with Rasputin's influence. Sofia Tulcheva, one of the sisters' governesses, was appalled by Rasputin's visit to the nursery when the girls were in their nightgowns. She reported her concerns to Grand Duchess Xenia, who was disturbed by the close interactions. Despite the innocence of Rasputin's relationship with the children, Nicholas requested that Rasputin avoid the nurseries to prevent further scandal. Alexandra, however, dismissed Tulcheva, reflecting her unwavering trust in Rasputin. Rasputin's influence was a source of tension within the court. Another nurse, Maria Vishnakova, initially admired Rasputin, but later accused him of rape. Alexandra refused to believe the accusation, maintaining her belief in Rasputin's holiness. This controversy only fueled the malicious rumours circulating in society, suggesting improper relationships between Rasputin and the Tsarina and the four Grand Duchesses. These rumours were exacerbated by Rasputin's release of innocuous but affectionate letters from the Tsarina and her daughters, which were misinterpreted by the public. The family's connection with Rasputin persisted despite these scandals until his murder in December 1916. Tatiana, deeply affected by his death, attended Rasputin's funeral, and he was buried with an icon signed by Tatiana, her mother, and her sisters. In his death, Rasputin left a significant emotional impact on Tatiana and her siblings. A. Mordvinov noted that the Grand Duchesses were visibly upset, sensing the impending political turmoil. Tatiana, who kept a notebook of Rasputin's sayings, found comfort in his words about love and suffering. Rasputin's philosophy, emphasizing the purity and endurance of love despite suffering, resonated with her deeply spiritual and reflective nature. This relationship, though controversial, highlighted the complex interplay of faith, loyalty, and the search for solace within the Romanov family during their tumultuous final years. As a young teenager, Grand Duchess Tatiana of Russia was bestowed with the honorary title of Colonel and given command of the Voznesensky Lancers. Alongside her sister, Olga, she took her responsibilities seriously, regularly inspecting a regiment of soldiers. Despite enjoying the company of soldiers, Tatiana often found their behaviour shocking. An incident on July 11, 1911 highlighted this when a group of officers aboard the Imperial yacht presented Olga with a portrait of Michelangelo's nude David. Tatiana, indignant, wrote to her aunt, Grand Duchess Olga Alexandrovna, about the incident, expressing her disapproval and calling the officers swine. Tatiana's exposure to the harsher realities of life began early. In 1911, she and Olga witnessed the assassination of government minister Pyotr Stolypin during a performance at the Kyiv Opera House. The traumatic event left both sisters deeply upset, with Tatiana sobbing and both having trouble sleeping that night. This experience was a grim prelude to the tumultuous years that would follow. When World War I erupted, Tatiana's life took a significant turn. She, her mother, and Olga trained as Red Cross nurses, dedicating themselves to caring for wounded soldiers in the private hospitals on the grounds of the Tsarskoye Selo. Despite her youth, Tatiana was noted for her skill and dedication. Anna Verbova, a close friend of the Tsarina, observed that Tatiana was almost as competent and devoted as her mother, though sometimes spared the more challenging cases due to her age. Tatiana's determination was evident when she insisted on helping Valentina Chebatareva with the laborious task of boiling silk, questioning why she couldn't breathe carbolic acid if Chebatareva could. In September 1914, Tatiana's commitment to the war effort was further recognised when she was named patron of the Tatiana Committee, a war aid organisation. Her patriotism was fierce, and she once apologised to her mother for speaking ill of Germans, explaining that she viewed her mother solely as Russian, forgetting her German origins. The Tsarina, feeling hurt by Russian gossip about the German heritage, appreciated Tatiana's apology, but remained troubled by the prejudice she faced. As the war dragged on, Tatiana's desire to contribute more grew. In a letter to her mother on August 15, 1915, she expressed her frustration at not being able to do more to support Russia, lamenting that she was not a man who could fight. This period saw her taking on more public roles and heading various committees, showcasing her growing sense of responsibility and leadership. Through these experiences, Tatiana evolved from a sheltered Grand Duchess into a dedicated nurse and patriot, deeply involved in her country's plight during one of its most challenging times. A blend of privilege and duty marked her early adulthood, ultimately shaping her into a figure of compassion and resilience. Tatiana experienced her first flutterings of romance at a young age. When she was just 13, she found herself fascinated with a soldier. Despite being ill, she implored her mother to allow her to leave her bed so she could watch the object of her admiration. On April 20, 1911, Tatiana wrote to the Tsarina, expressing her longing to attend a review of the 2nd Division, cleverly linking her position as the second daughter to her desire to see the soldier she admired, hinting coyly, "You know whom." Tatiana's life was further touched by romance during World War I. Dmitry Malamar, an officer in the Imperial Russian Cavalry, met Tatiana when he was wounded in 1914. According to Peter de Malamar in the December 2004 edition of Royalty Digest, Dmitry was appointed an equerry to the court of the Tsar at Tsarskoye Selo, where a romantic relationship blossomed between him and Tatiana. In September 1914, Dmitry gifted Tatiana a French bulldog named Ortipo. Tatiana was thrilled and wrote to her mother apologetically, explaining her joy and impulsive acceptance of the gift. Their bond was evident when Ortipo passed away and Dmitry presented Tatiana with another puppy. This dog accompanied Tatiana to Yekaterinburg, where it perished with the Romanov family. The depth of their connection was highlighted when Dmitry visited the imperial family 18 months later. On March 17, 1916, the Tsarina noted Dmitry's visit to Nicholas, admiring his transformation from an adorable boy to a flourishing man, and lamenting that foreign princes were not as appealing as Dmitry, who she saw as a perfect son-in-law. Unfortunately, Dmitry was killed in August 1919 while commanding a unit of the White Russians against the Bolsheviks in Ukraine, adding a tragic end to their romance. Tatiana's romantic encounters were not limited to Dmitry. According to Valentina Chebotareva's diary, Tatiana also had a fondness for an army officer named Vladimir Kidnadze, whom she nursed when he was wounded in 1915 and 1916. Chebotareva recounted how Tatiana would sit beside Volodya at the piano, conversing in low tones, and how Tatiana and Olga would find excuses to visit the hospital to see him. Chebotareva feared that the Grand Duchess's flirtations with the wounded officers could tarnish their reputations, yet these interactions showcased Tatiana's warm and caring nature. These romantic experiences, though often fraught with the constraints and tragedies of their time, added a dimension of personal longing and affection to Tatiana's life, highlighting her humanity amidst the grandeur of a royal existence. As a young woman of royal lineage, Grand Duchess Tatiana Nikolaevna of Russia was at the centre of various marriage negotiations that could have dramatically shaped her future. The interest in Tatiana as a potential bride for European royalty highlighted her esteemed position and the political alliances that her marriage could foster. In early 1914, King Peter I of Serbia expressed a keen interest in Tatiana as a bride for his younger son, Prince Alexander. This proposal was formalised through a letter from the Serbian Prime Minister, Nikola Pasic, to Tsar Nicholas II. In the letter, King Peter outlined his desire for a matrimonial alliance between Prince Alexander and one of the Russian Grand Duchesses. Tsar Nicholas responded by emphasising that he would allow his daughters to choose their husbands. Nonetheless, he observed that Prince Alexander had shown a particular interest in Tatiana during his visit to St. Petersburg, often gazing at her during family dinners. In addition to the Serbian interest, there were reports of the British royal family's desire to secure Tatiana as a bride for the Prince of Wales, the future Edward VIII. Edward was said to be captivated by Tatiana's beauty and nurturing demeanour, especially evident in her care for her younger brother, the Tsarevich Alexei. This admiration further underscored Tatiana's appeal as a royal bride capable of forming significant alliances. Despite the notable interest from these royal houses, Tatiana was considered too young for marriage when these suitors emerged. Her parents, Tsar Nicholas and Tsarina Alexandra, were cautious about seriously considering any marriage proposals at that stage. They were particularly attentive to their daughters' desires and were not inclined to arrange marriages purely for political gain without their consent. The outbreak of World War I in 1914 abruptly halted all discussions and negotiations regarding Tatiana's marriage. The royal family's focus shifted dramatically towards the war effort, with Tatiana and her sister Olga becoming deeply involved as Red Cross nurses. The pressing demands of the war and the subsequent political turmoil overshadowed marriage prospects as the Romanov family's position became increasingly precarious. In essence, the marriage negotiations for Grand Duchess Tatiana Nikolaevna of Russia were marked by significant interest from prominent European royal families. However, the combination of her youth, her parents' protective stance, and the unforeseen impact of World War I meant that these negotiations remained unfulfilled, leaving Tatiana's potential as a bride to powerful European princes unexplored. If you loved our video into the life of Grand Duchess Tatiana, you won't want to miss our next video. Click on the screen now to explore the untold stories and hidden secrets of another fascinating Romanov sister. Get ready to uncover more historical gems and intriguing royal tales. Your next adventure in history starts right here.